The Congress of South African Trade Unions, Cosatu President Zingiswa Losi, wants law enforcement authorities to arrest high-profile politicians implicated in serious crimes. She's also called for speedy prosecutions in this regard. This after she accused the police, the National Prosecuting Authority and the judiciary of treating politicians with kid gloves. Losi was delivering a message of support from the Federation on day 2 of the South African Communist Party's Congress in Boksburg, east of Johannesburg.
If we are to salvage and save our national democratic revolution, then we must cleanse the ANC and rebuild the alliance. We cannot afford to see the ANC further deteriorating. The ANC needs the party and COSATU to help cleanse it of its demons, of its corruption, of its factionalism, and of its hooliganism.
In the same vein, she slammed members of the tripartite alliance, including the African National Congress, of using state resources for their benefit. Well, to discuss this a little bit more, we're joined by to talk about COSATU's overall position on how best to fight the scourge of corruption in South Africa. We're now joined by Deputy President of COSATU, Michael Shingange. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Peter, and good evening to your viewers. Thanks for having us.
All right, so COSATU, one part of the tripartite alliance. You've spent time with the SACP as they go through their Congress. And I just wonder if you could reflect on the state of the tripartite alliance. We heard the president of your movement just now talking about rebuilding the alliance. What does she mean?
No, what we mean as COSATU when we said the alliance must rebuild is like any other organization as old as ours. I mean, the ANC is over 100 years, the party is over 100 years, COSATU is moving towards its 40th years. Obviously, you need to adapt to the reality of the conditions of today. We do think that the modus operandi of the alliance, as they were, when we were collectively together fighting for the liberation of this country, for the transformation agenda of this country, will have changed. We think that today we need to adjust to the new conditions. Each one of our alliance partners are not as strong as best as they were before. Each one of our alliance partners are really to the issues of unity and cohesion. And that's are the things that we think that we need to rebuild. But thirdly, you will know that by the time that collectively as a tripartite alliance, together with the mass democratic movements in this country, we fought for the ushering in of the democratic dispensation. One of our alliance partners was not at the helm of the state or was not in government. The condition under which the alliance now exists is such that one of the parties is a leading party in government, and therefore the power relations have to be redefined. That's why we'll always speak and talk about the reconfiguration of the alliance. It's just to redefine the role of each alliance partner, the relations in relation with the fact that one of the parties now a government in charge of the policies that are taking the country forward post the 1994 democratic breakthrough.
Is there, when we talk about going forwards, is there a thought perhaps that the tripartite alliance might be just an alliance of ideas, but that maybe it's time for a COSATU Labour Party to go on its own?
Go in its own way, you know? As
a political party?
No, we're a trade union. We're not a political party.
But
we're a trade union. We represent workers across the sectors of the economy, to the extent that we are a progressive trade union that is also interested in the politics, because whether you are in alliance or not, the reality that the condition under which you live, the price of the food and the bread you buy and the petrol and everything else are as a result of the political decisions that are taken by politicians, in particular in this time around in Parliament. We do not want to be apolitical. That one is not a secret. We are interested in the politics because politics determine the life of every citizen. But that does not mean that we're going to transform the trade union movement into a political party, in particular when it comes to issues of electoral politics.
As you sit and sharing message of support with the SACP, what do you see as your role as the trade union movement and the Communist Party as your partner working with the ANC going forward?
Well, the role of the trade union movement, in particular in the alliance, is to really make sure that the policy direction that ultimately the government takes are the policy direction that are also are worker friendly. The trade union movement or the workers in general are actually part of the society. So the issues that are bedeviling society are actually the things that are bedeviling the workers and the community which they live. We must collectively, as the Tripartite Alliance, find solutions to the cost of living that is too high. We must find solutions, for instance, as things stand now, to the very expensive and unavailable energy supply in this country. We must find solutions to the skyrocketing unemployment rate in this country. No party alone, no trade union movement alone, or the ANC alone can ever dream to have solutions for every these problems, except the combination and the combining of the ideas by the Tripartite Alliance and other members of society who themselves have got the best interest of the country at heart. So that's what we see as our role. We have done so before we were in power. We are continuing to do so, to campaign for the policy directions that they are supposed to serve the best interests of society. The Communist Party itself, it has got a responsibility to build a much broader working class movement in this country, mobilize the society, mobilize the workers, to unite the workers, but also to do the ideological training for those who are still of us struggling to make sure that we move to the next society that is free of oppression by one person another or by one class another. In this case, we're talking of socialism. We are a federation that have adopted, it's our formation, as socialism as our ultimate goal where we're moving into. And therefore, the Communist parties played a role in that context, that ultimately, we do not want to stay where we are. We need to move to the next society.
So a lot of people will say that the ANC is not socialist or communist. How can you possibly share ideas with different ideologies? But having said that, you've thrown your lot in with the ANC. What happens if at the next election the ANC doesn't get a majority? Does that mean your hopes, ambitions are lost at the ballot with the ANC?
Okay, you've asked a few questions. Let me start. Correct that the ANC is not a socialist organization. It's a multi-class organization. It has many classes in itself. Ourselves as the working class who are found there. Those who own the means of production are found in the ANC. The multinational companies are contesting the ANC. So the ANC, we've always known that it's a contested terrain. That is why we stay inside the ANC to contest each hegemony, to contest the direction, to an extent that from one time to another, like now, the classes that are opposed to us will seem to be dominant inside the ANC. Doesn't mean that we are not part of the ANC now, we are going to stop to contest it. So yes, like the General Secretary of the party said today in the Congress here, we have never had in our lifetime, even those who came before us, a communist-led ANC. There's always been communists in the ANC, and we're not about to start now. There's always been workers inside the ANC, because those are the most constituencies that the ANC is supposed to represent in the first place. Now, we're going to continue to make sure that we salvage our hegemony as the left or as the working class inside this liberation movement of ours. We're not about to donate it to anyone else. To an extent that in any elections to come, the ANC will probably not get a majority, and you're calling us, does mean that our hopes are dashed. Of course, the National Democratic Revolution will have taken a setback, but that does not mean that we must stop struggling. Every time when you persecute an NDR like we're doing now, or a revolution, you continuously have to assess the balance of forces. whether the balance of forces are tilting towards that which you stand for or are tilting to those who stand against you. Because it's a fact that from the time when we were fighting against the apartheid and colonialism, there were always forces that were fighting against that which we stood for. To the extent that we had a negotiated democratic breakthrough, continuous, there will exist forces who do not want us to go to the ultimate goal of where we're trying to go. And therefore, if to an extent that we might not get a majority, it will just indicate a setback and a need for us to reflect in terms of the balance of forces. But that's why we are in this Congress. That's why COSATU is going to its Congress in September. That's why the ANC will go to its conference in November and in December to ensure that that eventually doesn't befall us. But to the extent that it befell us, how is it that we're going to rebuild ourselves? Because the struggle to transform society for a better life will not end on whether the ANC has got a majority or it doesn't have a majority. That revolution will have to continue, irrespective of who wins the majority in the upcoming elections.
Deputy President Michael Shingange, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very, very much indeed for joining us on the program tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's COSATU Deputy President Michael Shingange. The trade union movement was giving its message of support at the SACP's Congress, which is currently underway east of Johannesburg at this time.